right, so you want the real Melania Trump story.
The real story.
Yeah, not just the headlines, not just former First Lady, but like, who is she?
Exactly.
Well, you handed us her autobiography, Melania by Melania Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, diving into this, it's a
lot there.
It's a gold mine.
Oh, yeah.
So much more than I expected.
It's really interesting to see how much depth there is kind of beneath those very carefully crafted public appearances.
Yeah, and she doesn't shy away from some of the less glamorous parts either.
Right.
I mean, take her childhood.
Yeah.
Sevnica, Slovenia.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful countryside.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the 1970s behind the Iron Curtain.
Right.
This isn't the, silver spoon upbringing people might assume.
Not at all, no. Her
Yes.
parents, Victor and Amalija, they really instilled a strong work ethic in her.
Right.
They weren't wealthy. They built a life for their family through sheer determination, and that clearly left a mark on Melania.
You can see that work ethic reflected so much in her life. And, speaking of influences, her mom, Amalija,
Yes.
she seems like quite the character.
It sounds like it.
Described as elegant, stylish, always impeccably put together.
Right.
But not just about looks more like projecting this image of capability.
Yeah, it speaks to an intentionality that you see, I think, throughout Melania's life.
Oh.
This isn't someone who leaves things to chance.
Right.
From her appearance to her career moves, every step seems very calculated, a product of careful thought.
Which is so impressive when you think about her, diving into the modeling world at 16.
Yeah.
I mean, most teenagers are trying to figure out what to wear to a friend's house.
Right.
And she's on photo shoot.
Exactly. And these weren't glamorous shoots either.
Right.
The early photos that we see, they're very simple setups, minimal styling.
Oh, interesting.
It really emphasizes, I think, that her natural beauty, her striking look, that's what captured people's attention.
You can absolutely see it in those pictures.
Mm-hmm.
But what gets me is she wasn't content with just being a pretty face.
Yeah.
She took the reins of her career.
Yeah.
Milan, Paris, navigating that world, facing rejection after rejection.
Yeah.
I mean, that takes serious grit.
It's a side of modeling I think we don't often see or hear about that much.
Yeah.
The resilience that you need to handle constant judgment, the pressure to succeed and to do it all alone in a foreign country.
Wow.
Yeah, that speaks volumes, I think, about her determination.
And that's what likely leads her to Ricardo Gay.
Yeah.
Signing with his agency, major power player back then.
Huge.
I mean, that wasn't just luck.
No, I think so at all.
So what was it?
I think Ricardo Gay would seen countless, beautiful women.
Oh, I'm sure.
But what set Melania apart was that unwavering self-possession, this ambition just radiating off of her.
Yeah, you can kind of tell even in photos.
Exactly. And that, coupled with her striking looks, that's the winning formula in such a cutthroat industry.
It makes you wonder what would her career have been like had she stayed solely focused on modeling. We'll never know, because 1996 rolls around and Melania sets her sights on New York City.
New York City? New York in the 90s, though.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole different ballgame from the European modeling scene.
Talk about a whirlwind.
Right. Huh.
She's stepping off the plane at JFK.
Mm-hmm.
She talks about the heat, the noise, that New York energy.
Oh, yeah.
She could feel the ambition radiating from the pavement.
Interesting.
And she was ready to match it.
Wow.
This wasn't just, a model moving for better opportunities.
Right.
This was like conquering a new world.
I see.
She's learning the city. She's navigating it alone, dealing with visa hurdles, building her career.
All while, like you said, in a city that never sleeps.
It's a side of her story you just don't hear that often.
Yeah.
The hustle, the
Right.
drive.
It's real.
She does mention getting her image on a Times Square billboard.
Oh, wow.
Which sounds glamorous.
Right.
Until you realize she's also facing constant rejection, struggling to make rent, just all those
Yeah, the unglamorous realities of
Yeah.
making it in New York.
Exactly.
And especially, I think, in that world.
Oh, totally.
But I think that's what's so telling about Melania is that she doesn't shy away from those less glamorous parts.
Right.
It humanizes her.
Exactly.
Here's this woman who's often perceived as untouchable, and she's talking about the same struggles as any young person trying to make it in a new city.
And then 1998, she meets Donald.
Okay.
Not on a runway or a photo shoot,
Right.
but at a party.
A party. Okay.
And what I found so fascinating,
Yeah.
she makes the first move.
Oh, really?
He was about to leave, and she stopped him, intrigued.
Interesting.
It really flips the script on that whole, Donald sees beautiful woman narrative.
It does kind of turn it on its head a little bit.
It makes you wonder, what did she see in him that,
Oh, yeah.
like, beyond the wealth and the persona and all of that?
Yeah, was it just the business or was there something else there?
And what's even more interesting is that their early dates, they weren't all champagne and caviar.
Oh, okay.
They're taking walks on his Bedford property, talking architecture,
Whoa.
discussing business deals.
Huh.
She was drawn to his work ethic, his drive, which again,
Mirrored her own.
totally.
It speaks to a certain understanding.
Yeah, like they were speaking the same language.
Yeah, a shared ambition that's often overlooked.
Absolutely.
These are two people who understand the language of success, who find common ground in their relentless pursuits.
And their shared values also stand out.
Yeah, what's that?
The no smoking,
Okay.
no drinking.
Interesting.
They're not exactly what you think of when you think of like...
Right, Donald's world, yeah.
Exactly.
So she saw something else.
Yeah. And, even their courtship,
Yeah.
intentionally low-key at first.
Really?
This wasn't some like whirlwind romance.
Right.
It was very carefully considered, even with the world watching.
That makes sense.
And then, of course, there's that iconic 2005 wedding,
Oh, yeah.
the Dior gown,
I mean, come on.
the celebrity guest list.
Right.
Pure extravagance.
Totally.
But even then, it's like Melania's meticulous planning that shines through.
That tracks.
She was not content to be a passive bride.
Yeah, she took the reins.
This was her event,
I like it.
orchestrated down to like the seating chart, the flowers.
Wow.
It was her vision, her taste.
It's another example of Melania, taking charge, shaping her own narrative.
It does kind of make you wonder, knowing what we know now,
Yeah.
was that wedding like a glimpse into how she would approach the role of First Lady?
Interesting.
But before we dive into that chapter,
Okay.
we have to talk about Baron,
Of course, Baron.
born in 2006.
2006. Okay.
And what struck me was Melania's dedication to giving him as normal of a childhood as possible.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, weekends away from the spotlight,
Mm-hmm.
prioritizing his hobbies,
Mm-hmm.
creating that sense of normalcy amidst
The chaos.
all of it.
I can't even imagine.
It seemed very much like a direct reflection of the values that her own parents instilled in her.
Yeah, makes sense.
Amalicia's influence is undeniable.
I see it.
That emphasis on kindness,
Mm-hmm.
on letting a child find their own path.
It wasn't about spoiling Baron.
No, it was about grounding him.
Right.
It all kind of plays into this theme I'm seeing of deliberate choices.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, from Slovenia to modeling to marriage and motherhood.
Mm.
Melania seems to approach each chapter with this, careful consideration.
I like that.
And this brings us to a very pivotal moment.
Okay.
2016 election.
Here we go.
Donald decides to run for president,
Huge.
and Melania's life is about to change forever.
In ways she probably never anticipated.
And not necessarily in ways that she wanted, if we're being honest.
Right.
She writes very candidly about her initial hesitation,
Yeah.
her awareness of the toll it would take on their family.
Of course.
I mean, she wasn't naive to the kind of scrutiny, the pressure, the constant public eye.
She knew what she was getting into.
In a way, yeah, it was a choice made with open eyes,
Right.
but a very difficult one nonetheless.
Right. And then the campaign itself.
Oh, boy.
The plagiarism controversy, the cyberbullying directed at Baron.
It's awful.
Those were deeply personal blows.
Especially the attacks on Baron.
Awful.
She's very open about how that experience really fueled her best initiative.
I see.
Her focus on online safety for children.
Right.
It became so much more than just like a platform for her.
It became personal.
It did. It became very personal. And it's a side of her I think we didn't see very often.
Well.
That fierce protectiveness.
Yeah.
But it also speaks to her strength.
Right.
Her ability to channel those really difficult experiences into action.
And to use her platform.
Yeah, to address an issue that clearly resonated with her on a very deep level.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And this is all before she even steps foot in the White House.
This is just the lead up.
Buckle up.
Oh, boy.
Because it's about to get really interesting. So she's now First Lady, officially.
Right.
Did she just kind of conform to expectations
Not really.
in that role?
No, I think her book really challenges that notion that somehow she was this, passive presence.
Right.
From the very beginning, you see her deliberate touch.
Okay, like what?
Those White House renovations, for instance, it wasn't just redecorating.
Okay.
She used design to make very intentional symbolic statements,
Oh, interesting.
like the diplomatic reception room rug.
Tell me about this rug.
So, it would have been very easy to choose something, standard.
Right, something stately presidential.
Right, exactly. But instead, she decides to incorporate the state flowers.
Oh, wow.
A subtle nod to the nation's diversity.
Oh, that's cool.
It just speaks to, I think, her eye for detail, but also this desire to kind of subtly subvert expectations.
Yeah, she was playing the game, but also, like,
on her own terms.
making it her own.
Exactly.
And speaking of which, the state dinners.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
She loves those.
Especially the one for the French president.
I was just thinking about that one.
Like, it sounds like it was planned with, like, military precision.
That sounds like Melania.
Right.
I think there's an anecdote about how she handpicked the musical entertainment for that night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it wasn't just, a random French orchestra.
Yeah.
It incorporated, elements of both French and American culture.
Oh, cool.
And it wasn't just about, putting on a good show.
Right.
It was very much, I think, about sending a message of unity.
Right. Of diplomacy.
Yes, of shared cultural appreciation.
Wow. So everything was very intentional.
Very deliberate, yeah.
It wasn't all these, like, meticulously planned events, though.
True.
I'm thinking of her solo trip to Africa in 2018.
Yeah, 2018.
That felt different.
It did feel different.
More personal somehow.
More personal, and I think that trip was really significant for her.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about, fulfilling First Lady duties.
It was about, like, connecting with people.
Yes. Particularly children, I think.
Yeah, on a human level.
On a human level. And I think her interactions with those kids, seeing the impact of poverty, lack of opportunity, firsthand.
Yeah.
It clearly resonated deeply with her.
You can see it in the photos for sure. And that brings us to, that visit to the border in 2018.
Oh boy, here we go.
The I really don't care, do you, jacket.
Yeah.
The controversy.
That sparked a lot of conversation.
It did.
A lot of opinions.
And understandably so.
For sure. But I think reading her perspective, you realize it was aimed at the media frenzy surrounding the situation.
Not the children.
Not the children themselves.
Okay.
And what I found really interesting is that she actually pushed for that border visit.
Really?
Yes, even if it meant disagreeing with administration policies.
Wow, so she wasn't just, like, going along with everything.
No, I think that's a really important point.
Yeah.
It showed that she had her own independent thoughts.
Her own opinion.
Yeah, a willingness to stand by her convictions, even when it was politically risky.
Yeah, she didn't shy away from that.
And then there's her focus on technology, which I think is very interesting, particularly with her Be Best initiative kind of evolving into fostering the future.
Right, so it wasn't just about cyberbullying.
No, it became so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And I think it shows real foresight on her part.
Yeah.
Recognizing that technology can be this incredibly powerful tool for social good.
Yeah, okay.
But it can also be detrimental.
Right. She was very outspoken about that.
About the downside.
The cancel culture.
Yeah.
How it's personally affected her.
And again, I think it's a side we don't often hear from public figures.
Especially ones who have benefited from it, in a way.
Right, exactly.
From platforms, from exposure.
But she talks about, being disinvited from events.
Oh, wow.
Seeing her business ventures targeted.
That's awful.
It is. It's the real world consequences of online outrage.
It's scary.
It is scary. And it makes you really think twice about, the power of these digital platforms. And I think her response to that is really fascinating.
Yeah, how so?
Embracing things like blockchain technology.
Dang.
Seeking ways to connect with people directly.
Outside of the control of big tech.
Exactly. And, whether that's effective long term, I don't know.
Right. It's kind of early to tell.
But it shows that she's not afraid to challenge the status quo.
I like that.
And she doesn't shy away from potentially controversial topics either.
You're talking about her stance on abortion.
That's one of them. Yes.
It is a really interesting, nuanced kind of perspective there.
It's a very, specific position that doesn't really fit neatly into either side.
She's pro-choice, but also supports parental consent for minors.
Yeah. It's a stance that, likely alienates those on both extremes of the debate.
Which cracks with everything else we've talked about.
It does, right?
She's not afraid to be in the gray area.
And I think that's what makes her so fascinating.
It does.
It's that, unwillingness to be put in a box.
So where do we even go from here?
Right. What's next for Melania Trump?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. And I think, this book is clearly an attempt to reclaim her narrative.
Yeah, to set the record straight.
To control how she wants to be seen.
She stepped back from the spotlight, but the work continues.
Yeah, her advocacy work, particularly around, technology, free speech, those issues continue.
I have a feeling we haven't heard the last from Melania Trump.
No, I don't think so either.
She's someone who clearly carefully considers her moves.
Very deliberately.
She operates with intention.
And she's not afraid to speak her mind.
Whatever the next chapter holds, I'm sure it will be on her terms.
I agree. One thing's for sure, though, she has definitely shattered that image of the silent, passive First Lady.
Yeah, she really has.
Melania Trump is a study in contrast.
She really is.
She's this glamorous public figure, but also this very private woman behind the facade.
And she's not afraid to be both.
Exactly. And I think she challenges us to look beyond those easy assumptions.
To dig a little deeper.
To grapple with the complexities of a life that's been lived under constant scrutiny.
Whether you agree with her or not,
Right.
one thing's undeniable. She makes an impact.
Melania Trump knows how to leave a mark, and I have a feeling this is just the beginning.